Welcome to the Atlanta Men's Workshop speaker and workshop recordings. Atlanta Men's Workshop is held every spring and fall at the Rock Eagle 4-H campus in Eatonton, Georgia. That's just about an hour east of Atlanta, Georgia. Please visit our website at atlantamensworkshop.com or see the link below to find dates and details to join us. Partial scholarships are available to those in need. We hope you enjoy this presentation, and we hope you will come join us at the Rock. Until then, we shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then.
This is the open mic in memory of Bill Sanders. Now, I want to stress the fact this is not a memorial. Okay? This is more or less us talking about our experiences, little things that happen between each one of us individuals and Bill. Bill was my sponsor. He was my third sponsor. And my second sponsor got cancer. He went up into the mountains to die. But he didn't die. He also didn't come his ass back out of the mountains. So I was walking around in this dilemma for a couple of years, waiting on my sponsor to come back down out of the mountains. And at the end of a retreat meeting one night, Bill asked me, "Jew, who are you accountable to?" And I mumbled something, and all I could come up with was, I still got a sponsor. He challenged me. He said, "But are you accountable to them?" And I felt like I was a newcomer. I didn't have no comeback for that. I never asked Bill to be my sponsor. He told me he was my sponsor. And I accepted that. The reason why I accepted that is because I trusted him. And he already knew in me what I could do to myself if I didn't have somebody to actually answer to. From that point until the time he died, he never asked me to tell him anything. He would simply ask me, "How are you doing, Jew?" And whatever I was going through at the time, I had to tell him. So I've had 3 sponsors in my lifetime. My first sponsor was a few months after I got in here. He was in the other fellowship. And he was, and I can't say this on the tape, but MF, you better not use. That was my first sponsor. He was my better not use sponsor. My second sponsor, I got at this retreat, and he took me through the steps. And he is actually my recovery sponsor, because he took me through the steps. His name was Gerald Daly. Gerald Daly and Alonzo's Bill Lepley and Bill Sanders were all sponsored by Doc Crane. And we can go all the way back, like Alonzo was telling me the other night. Bill was my accountability sponsor, because I had to be accountable for what I was thinking, saying, and doing to him. Last retreat, well, before that, my myself and Sherlock were going to Roanoke last May. We wanted to take Bill. Bill wanted to go. He called me back. He said the doctor said that he could not travel. We didn't hear that. All we heard is he couldn't get in Charlotte. All I heard was he couldn't get in Charlotte's car. I said, no, Bill, we're going to deny it. We'll put you in the back like it's an ambulance. Quote unquote. He said, no, they say I can't ride, I can't travel. I said, Bill, we'll fly you there, man. He said, okay, I'll call him and see can I fly. He called me back and said, no. Couldn't fly. All right. Couldn't fly, couldn't ride with the road. A little disappointed. But that was the first inkling in my spirit that Bill was leaving. Because he could not do any of the things that he had been doing all of the time I've known him. Bill was a prolific speaker. He spoke everywhere, and he was also a pretty good judge of speakers. And that is a testament to the wonderful recordings we have of speakers he invited him to talk. He even volunteered me to speak in places. And on a number of occasions, he would be the one that introduced me. And the thing I fell in love with about his introduction was that you don't get from where he was to where he is without a divine act of providence. And at first it just sounded like a real nice introduction, you know what I'm saying? But over time, it started taking on meaning. I looked up the word providence. I wanted to know what he was telling people. You know what I'm saying? And providence in the dictionary goes as the hand of God going before him, preparing the way. So all of us are entitled to providence. Matter of fact, providence is probably working for all of us right as we speak. And he would always say that about him. You don't get from where he was to where he is without a divine act of providence. And this is the guy standing before you right now who went from junkie to judge. And I remained silent for that for a little while because that's what he was talking about. He knew that story. And I could go on and on, but I kind of want to set the pattern for how we share. This ain't, I got my cry on at the Heavy Hitters Workshop because he died the week before we got here. And I woke up that morning and I called Ron Mazurik. Ron Mazurik was one of the old sages that was here when I got here and is still here. And I cried and I told him my sponsor's gone and I need somebody to be accountable to. This ain't supposed to happen. I thought I got that over with you and Ray. But that's, I have a sponsor today because I learned something from him then. Somebody like me, I don't need to be left to my own devices too long. So with that, I'm going to get this mic away so I can turn my head and wipe my eyes. Come on, Bill.
I'm Bill Middleton. I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Bill.
And I'm sorry he said don't do them on memorial service. This is exactly what I'm going to do. My association started with Bill because my sponsor was sponsored by Bill. Both went, and actually they both had very little time at that time. Bill had about 3 years, and my sponsor was brand new. And that was the early association. A couple of stories I want to tell you about Bill. When Bill was brand new, his first road trip on business was to Washington, D.C. And there was a guy from my home group named Chuck. And Chuck had been transferred to Washington, D.C. and was up there. And Bill called him and said, will you take me to a meeting in Washington, D.C., just to be sure I don't drink when I get there? And Chuck said, oh, I'll pick you up. And Chuck picked him up, took him to his hotel, and they went out to dinner and they went to a meeting. And when Chuck died, Bill got a hold of me and said, I'm not going to be able to come to the funeral, but please find some of the family members and tell them that how appreciative Bill was of what Chuck had done for him. He said he kept me sober because he said I was really vulnerable in those first few days, first few weeks after he got sober. And he said I was scared to death I was going to drink. And he said, left alone, I probably would have. Chuck kept him sober. And I told his daughter that. And of course, the little tears came down that her father had done that. And the other story is about Bill and Marlene. They as a couple were unique. I remember one of Bill Montgomery's birthday parties, and they were always 50 or 60 or 100 people all celebrating. And Bill and Marlene came to those with some pretty good regularity. And they would sit in the house, in Ken's house, and they had one table that was all the desserts. And the two of them would play a little game. Marlene would go to the table and load up a little plate with a whole bunch of desserts. Bill would go over and he would load it up. And then they would sit there. Oh, Marlene, try this one. And about 7,000 calories. And then she would do the same thing to him. And they would sit there and pass the desserts back and forth. And it was a game they played. And it was just their little way of showing affection. And it was one of those unique things. I remember, for those of you who are from Atlanta, remember the old talk radio guy, Neil Boris?
Yeah.
His thing, he had a little line he had, the greatest status symbol that a person can have is a long-standing marriage. And the reason that's such an important status symbol is because it takes two people to do it. You can be a nuclear physicist or an astrophysicist all by yourself. You can go to the moon by yourself, but you cannot have a long-standing marriage by yourself. And Bill and Marlene were two of those people that dedicated themselves to that long-standing marriage. And were very, very successful at it. And they've always been my role model in that regard. Because they had 60 years when Bill passed, or when Marlene passed. I'm fortunate enough right now that I've got 48 years. And I'm really, 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 really envy that. The other story, and Bill was very influential on my sponsor. And one of the things, and I asked him, my sponsor, early on, I said, when are you going to take me through the book? And he said, I'm not. I said, well, I thought that's what sponsors did. He said, not necessarily. He said, my sponsor did not take me through the book. And I said, how does that work? He said, I want you to go find big book studies and 12 and 12 studies and sit there with 30 or 40 other people and go through the book. If I took you through the book, you'd know everything I knew about the book. If 40 people in the room go through the book with you, you'll know what 40 or 50 people know about the big book or the 12 and 12. It's a much more well-rounded education. He said, in our case, neither one of us have kids. We will meet people in those meetings who have kids, and if we have sponsees that have kid problems, we'll know where to go for advice. And that was the way Bill had taken Aubrey through the program and how Aubrey took me through the program. and it worked. And it was simply, my sponsor was imitating Bill's approach. The other thing he told me very early on, he said, Bill, today, I want you to go this afternoon, do something really, really nice for somebody, and not tell a soul what you did. And so Aubrey did that. The next day they had lunch, and Aubrey said, Bill, this is what I did yesterday. And Bill said, no, you did it wrong. So we had it wrong. I said, the instructions were do something very, very nice for somebody this afternoon, and don't tell anybody, including me. So I'm going to repeat the instructions. Do it that way now. Don't tell anybody. And he told me that, and he said, I know you well enough to know that you will go do that, and I'm going to save you the grief of having to do it twice. He says, don't tell anybody. A great, great man. I'm glad I've known him for 30 years, and glad to be part of this.
Next guy.
My name is Rick, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Rick.
Man, I want to come up here because Bill, watching Bill over the years, man, Bill loved AA. He loved AA, and you watched him, you saw him. You know, the one thing I saw Bill do is young men, he would bring them in, and he always kept the young men, like, mentoring them and stuff. And I seen him pop those boys with that cane.
I got popped with the cane.
But
I had to be young to get that.
Bill was my sponsor dog. Dog is Jewel's sponsor dog. Bill's sponsor. Jewel. So, but I didn't know Bill, but I guess he knew me. Because, you know, some of the guys in my circle, I was important at the Raw. Because when I sponsor guys, last day, whatever, they need to go to the Raw, I call Bill. He'll answer, talk to me, bring them on, Rick. My wife said, that was cool. I'm telling you, I had an inside track to AA, right? But having that inside track it can work against you too now. Because I'm the sergeant at arms. That's what Doc told me to do. And I hated it. And Doc didn't show up. I'm walking around cool. I ain't doing that sergeant at arms. Doc ain't here, right? Bill come up, Rick, aren't you supposed to be sergeant at arms? I'm like, Doc ain't here. Okay, we need you to be sergeant at arms. And he had his cane. And Bill, he threatened you with the cane. So it was, but I'm telling you, man, the spirit, seeing Bill up there with Doc Crandall, man, I love that. Doc Crandall said, man, and I love that. And he just get excited, right? And you get to know me, man, I get that excitement going. I love AA. This rock changed my life. And Bill, how he lived the program, and he made me feel a part of it. I don't get that guruism stuff, like he's a fucking professor, or he's great. Bill was just a drunk helping another drunk. And he would ask me to do stuff, basically tell me to do stuff. One year, I guess I got a new Cadillac, so I'm going to show my new Cadillac off, right? I brought it down here. Guess what I was doing the next rock? Hey, Rick, can you pick up the guys from the airport? I have a limousine Cadillac, baby. So he put my butt to work with it. So, man, I love, thank God for Bill Sanders and the legacy he left, and the Atlanta Men's Workshop. And it's ironic. Now I'm on the committee. You know, and I watched those guys over the years. So it's just, I think, you know, God did a great thing through Bill Sanders. And I'm telling you, man, I love the fact how he loved AA and how he practiced it. Thanks for letting me share.
Thank you, Rick.
Next guy.
I'll do it. Hey, family, my name is Alonzo. I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Alonzo.
The first thing I want to do is put myself in perspective to Bill Sanders. And Jewel was correct. My first sponsor was a guy named Bill Levin. And Bill Levin and Bill Sanders came in about the same time. And they were both sponsored by Doc Crandall.
That's him with the white hair.
Put the mic back to your mouth.
Oh, that's him with the white hair.
Yeah.
And sitting next to him, or standing next to him, is Doc's sponsor, Hollywood. So,
Bill Hollingsworth.
and Sanders was sponsored by Doc Crandall, who in turn was sponsored by Bill Hollingsworth, who in turn was sponsored by Dave Cox, who in turn was sponsored by Dave Grant, who in turn was sponsored by Colin Dooley,
Gordon.
and he was sponsored by Billy Wilson. The other thing I want to say is, so Bill Sanders was kind of like an uncle to me in recovery. And when Leslie passed, he kind of bridged the gap till I found my next sponsor, a guy named Reggie Smith. And my current sponsor is a guy named Bill Sanders. So there's a Bill thing in my recovery. One of the last messages I got from Bill was a text he sent acknowledging that it was his year anniversary of the loss of his wife, the love of his life. And it was just so devastating by that. And it was an example to me. I told my friends that I never married. I could probably, in function of this program, be a damn good husband and probably a damn good father. Just wasn't my deal. But I can look at Bill Sanders and see all the things that I wanted to be and wasn't. So maybe my job is just to continue this thing a little bit. And those of you who are here and it's your first walk or you're young, you're the future. So if you want to honor Bill, grab hold of something, take it through the steps, and keep what that man and that man started. That's it. I'm done. Who's next?
Thanks, Lars.
My name's Art Sullivan. I'm an alcoholic. Very gay. Grateful sponsee of Bill Sanders. Thought a lot about this since I knew we were going to do it. I don't know what's going to come out, but I want to tell two stories, I think. Bill sponsored me, but Bill was my third sponsor. I got ready to go to Texas. Bill probably gave me the best advice a sponsor's ever given them. Don't think like I am. He said, Art, they've had AA out there in Houston for a long time. You don't need to go out there and fix it. You reckon he knew me or what? But, that turned out to be some really good advice. But, really good suggestions. I've been sponsored by 4 men since I've been sober, and it's a crazy weekend. My first sponsor is speaking Sunday morning. My second sponsor is speaking tonight. We're remembering the influence of my third sponsor. And then the sponsor, he insisted he said long distance sponsorship don't work for you. That's another good suggestion he made. He said, when you get to Texas, you get your sponsors. I'll always be your long distance sponsors, but long distance sponsorship don't work for you. So I got a sponsor out there. He got killed in a car accident after I moved back from Texas. So it's been a rough road. Alan, we were talking, and I tell you hang around here, you're going to go to some funerals. It's some of them are real celebrations, and some of them are sad. I miss Bill. Bill sponsored me through a divorce. Bill sponsored me through a bankruptcy. And I thought those were big deals. Bill helped me understand it. There wasn't no big deals. Staying sober was a big deal. He walked me through that. I have never worked with a man more loving, more caring, more concerned about my welfare than Bill Sanders. And I love what you said. Bill's a human being just like the rest of us. I guarantee you, I never saw him do it, but I guarantee you he put his pants on one leg at a time. Maybe. Just like every one of the rest of us. But the men he affected set the bar real high for our Southern. I need to be as close as I can to as influential as Bill was toward helping other men. And he did it for years and years and years. The reason I'm here is his fault. It's his fault. I'm grateful. I'm really grateful. I'm glad we're putting this on, guys. Who's next?
Rick.
How you doing? My name's Greg, and I'm now calling. I first came to the Rock. I didn't know what I was in for. I seen this well-dressed man, looking spectacular up here, and he led the meeting. And the first thing I started getting from him was, do not leave the campus on Saturday night. Okay? They didn't want to break that rule. Because then this guy, he had power, you know. You can see his love and everything in him. And so, me and my sponsor kept taking me out to Cracker Barrel. Didn't want to go to Cracker Barrel. Let's stay here. So we came up with this idea, we're going to get some steaks and cook them down here by the lake. I don't know how many of y'all had one of my steaks. Quite a few. And people in there who brought potato salad and stuff too, but I went to keep from breaking the rules and taking a chance on hurting the Rock that was keeping me sober and keeping me spiritually fit. I felt it my responsibility to go ask Bill if I was allowed to do that. You know, I did not want to hurt his feelings. I did not want to hurt the Rock. He said, Greg, he says, that sounds like a neat idea. He says, as long as Rock Eagle doesn't say anything, I'm not going to say anything. And I guarantee you he don't remember saying that to me, but he did. And we turned it into a big old thing. And, but it was just, you know, just the thought of me walking up and asking him a question, and he grabbed me, you know, and he had his cane in one hand, and he had it up like this, you know, and he was just saying, let's just watch out for the Rock, you know, and I'll never forget that. I did it for a long time. All good things come to pass, you know, and that's gone. So we'll do something different, but I will never cook another steak out here. Unless one of his sponsors does me too good.
You asking me?
He had a presence on this stage that I will never forget.
It's true.
He showed Bill Cosby up there. Bill made Bill Cosby look bad. I was more respected, and I liked Bill Cosby. And I respected Bill. He was tight dressed and he was ready to go, you know? And he made the AA look really, really, really good to me when he got on the stage. And every time he talked to him, he came around to talking about AA, not talking about what he wanted to talk about. So that's it for me. Thank you for letting me share.
Come on,
Thanks, Greg.
Bill. Then you, Rick.
I'm Milton Bennett. I didn't know Bill personally, but I knew, I guess the thought in my head want to say I knew him personally, but I didn't know him personally. And I know what he brought to the rock, his energy, and everybody else got it, just spread out. And the few times that I did talk to him, you just felt the sincerity. He did care. He didn't know me well, but he cared about my well-being, like somebody just said. But the funny thing that I remember was, I got this thing where I remember voices. And the first time I came to the rock, I'm like, man, I know this guy's voice. Where's this guy from? I know this guy's voice. It took like 3 rocks. And then I think a day or two, I was watching something old on TV. And there I saw Bill doing the hover around commercial in that little wheelchair years ago, and I was dying laughing. And I told guys, I thought that was funny. That's how I remember him. And I guess my biggest thing is, I just want to say, you know, how grateful I am to him. The energy that he put into the rock, that spread to everybody else, and the committees and everything else. From what I see, he held this together. I guess this is just my way of saying thank you. To not only him, but everybody else. That got something.
Thanks, Bill. Come on, Richard. Working out pretty good, huh?
Yeah.
Wow, got some really cool stories with Bill. We were down in Warner Robins. I could come up here to the workshop and I seen what was going on here. It was just amazed me. And it opened my eyes up to a whole different view of this perception of this whole deal of AA. And started talking to Bill, and he never hesitated to come to Warner Robins, our little small group down there, and help us out with sponsorship workshops. He'd been down there several times for that.
Powerful group, though.
Say what?
It's a powerful group.
Yep. And he'd come down, he'd speak for some of the kids down there. The kids wanted to hear Bill speak. And one of the funniest things I remember was, he invited us to come up. And him and Maureen took us to one of his favorite restaurants. And then we went to the 8111 Club. 15 of us come up from Warner Robins. And we all went there. And when we got back from Warner Robins, while we was in there, we were all saying, we're from Warner Robins. And they asked us if we left anybody there. And we sort of let the feel. When we got back to Warner Robins, there's half a dozen people waiting for us to get back to see what kind of day we got. And it was a fantastic day. And also, the guys like Joel, see her, Doc, and Sherlock all come down and Ray jump in and help us too. We don't know what the hell we're doing. And I'm really grateful to you guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Richard.
Yeah, Chris, I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Chris.
And so Bill got sober with my dad, and they were both sponsored by Doc. And that was at 8111. I remember Doc and a bunch of people at the house when I was a kid. So Doc, yeah, probably over there. And when Doc passed away suddenly, my dad never got another sponsor. He had 6 years, and it's the best years I remember of my dad. He's still around, but he's not quite sober. But he's in a controlled environment, nursing home, which is good. Could be a lot worse. Anyway, I always liked Darth Vader growing up, and really, Bill stayed sober when Doc died. My dad didn't, but Bill was kind of like our Obi-Wan Kenobi. he did stay sober. And I never really knew Bill. My sister did. She got sober. Thank God, finally. She got sober in his 34 years. All the results of my dad not giving up on her. Because Doc picked my dad up every day and took him to 8111 after dinner. Every day, without fail. He would call over at the house and say, what are y'all doing? They're not partying over there, are you? And so my sister got sober. She knew Bill. She would cut his hair and Marlene's hair. And I heard that Marlene died. I knew of Bill. And I would see him sometimes at my sister's hair salon. And I had his number. I had maybe talked to him a little bit in passing and stuff. But when Marlene died, I reached out to Bill a few times. And I left him some voicemails. I left him a few voicemails. I saw my dad go through my mom's death, and I just know that's not easy. And anyway, I never really heard back from him until I saw him at Marlene's service at 8111, which was beautiful. And there was actually, I was trying to decide on a dog. I've had some trouble. People have mentioned a great example of Bill and Marlene and their love for each other and how authentic, amazing, pure that was. And is. And I was trying to decide on a dog, and I was so indecisive, I couldn't decide. And there was a stray dog outside of 8111. And I ended up, I talked to Bill after I got the dog. No chip, no collar, became my dog. Named it, I didn't know if the name of the man, maybe Marlene or something, or Angel, but named it Angel. And I found out that the dog actually belonged to this lady that had a special needs son, and the dog would put her little paw on the kid to help him sleep at night because he had night terrors. And so I was like, oh man, I gotta get the dog back now tonight, I was on next door and I saw that. And then she called me a few months later, wanted me to give me the dog back. It was Luna, another celestial name. Anyway, it's just special to me. But Bill and I talked at Marlene's service, and he took me up on my offer. And Bill allowed me the pleasure of taking him to meetings from the time of Marlene's service up until the time of his passing. And there's something about going to a meeting with an alcoholic, two alcoholics, just hanging together and going to a meeting. We'd go to dinner, and then we'd go to a meeting. And that was our Friday night ritual. And it was just such a pleasure to get to know Bill and to hear his stories, and hear what it was like with Doc and my dad. And he's helped so many guys here at the Rock. He had two guys that lived with him when they were like 18, and they're amazing fathers and have great families and are great AAs now, their own businesses and stuff like that. And just the impact that he's had is tremendous. And I wasn't going to come to the Rock. But Bill was telling me all about the Rock. I didn't realize he took the reins over from Doc when Doc passed. Doc's wife had just come up and given it to him and said, "It's yours now. Here's all the stuff on the Rock." And it's just, I just feel so blessed to have gotten to know Doc. To know Bill. And anyway, he got to go watching Georgia win. That was pretty cool. He was a big Bulldogs fan. And it just couldn't be any sweeter how that happened. Now him and Marlene are together. One of the last nights we were hanging out, there was a full moon. And Bill had a lot of great stories. He told me a story about how he met Neil Armstrong, I think it was, Buzz, one of those first astronauts. Yeah, and he was interviewing him. He interviewed a lot of really interesting people in his career. And he told me, he's like talking to the guy, and he's like, "What's it like to be up there?" Be like, "I've been there." And and just how cool that was, where it's a full moon, and anyway, the dog, his name is Luna. It's a full moon. That was the last night I went to meet Bill. It was like, I guess Friday before he passed away on my night, national championship. But just so, spiritual, Bill told me all about the rock, and I told him, man, I gotta go, so, I feel Bill's spirit here, and I'm just so glad to be here, and I'm here because I heard Bill invited me. I'm glad to be here. Thank you guys.
Thank you, man.
Hey everybody, I'm Adam. I'm an alcoholic. Real quick story about this. This is about 10 years ago, and it was, I think, the second time I was coming to the Rock, and I knew it was coming. And it was in March, and I decided to hold off of registering. Anybody guess why? Because of a chick. I wanted to spend the weekend with the girl. And there was some bad business that happened with the girl before that weekend, and that was over. I called Bill Sanders' personal phone number. I don't remember how I got it. I told him the story, and I said, I really want to come to the Rock this weekend. I really need to. And he says, it's full, but I'll let you know if the spot comes open. And he calls back about 5 minutes later, and he says, Adam, in a low voice, the tone of voice, he says, pack your bags. And I said, thank you. And then I come, and I don't know which cabin I'm going to, but we wind up going to cabin 55, and it was his cabin. And he's in there, he's wolfing down these powdered donuts, and says, you're Adam? Yeah, I remember talking to you. And he goes, do the accommodations suit you? And I said, yeah, that meant the world to me. And that's one of many reasons. I mean, he probably didn't remember that, but I do. And that's one of many reasons I've always wanted to come back and to invite people to come back. I really enjoy my guy.
My name is Chris. I'm an alcoholic. And I know a lot of you guys in here. I've known you guys for more than a few years now. And, this weekend at the Rock is kind of a unique experience. And why I say that is not just Bill, but there's other guys that have gone on to, great beyond. Our friend Leroy, our friend Ann. A lot of us that remember them very fondly, especially Bill too. And I say this because about 12 years ago, I was real new. I was probably 2 or 3 years sober, and I made a comment to my friend Billy S. down in Ocala. We're all part of Central Florida Men's Workshop. And I made this comment. Somebody asked me something. I said, I'm going to call my good friend Bill. My good friend Bill said that. And if you guys know Billy, I didn't hear the end of that forever. It's like, your good friend Bill, my good friend Bill. Well, I said that. I was friends with Bill, but I wasn't good friends with Bill. Well, now God plays a way in doing these things, because the very next Central Florida Men's Workshop we went to, Bill was there. And you guys all know that Bill liked technology, especially Apple products. And for years, I would ask him, hey, Bill, you getting a new iPhone? It's like, no, I'm not going to get it. And then as soon as it was released, I get this phone call. Hey, Chris, guess what I'm talking to you from? I'm talking to you from my new iPhone, whatever it was, whatever generation. But he knew I liked Apple stuff too, and there was a couple of us that have been diehard Apple for years. So if anybody remembers when they switched to iPhone cables, they went from doing like a 16 plug cable to like these lightning cables. So we're down at Central Florida Men's Workshop, and it's Friday afternoon, and Bill comes up to me. He goes, hey, Chris, do you happen to have one of the new iPhone cables? Because I left mine up in Atlanta. I'm like, no, I don't. I didn't switch over yet. He goes, oh, man. I say, well, I'll tell you what. Why don't we go ahead and drive up to Best Buy? It's just a couple of minutes away from here. And we'll go get it. So I took Bill with me, and we drove in the car and drove up to Best Buy. We go in there and get the cable, and then as we get back in the car, I said to Bill, have you ever been to the villages? Which, if anybody doesn't know, there's a lot of news about it, a lot of retirement people down there. It's the largest retirement community in the world. And they all drive around these golf carts on Friday afternoons, or most days they drive around the square. There'll be like 1,000 golf carts out there. Bill's like, no, I haven't. I've seen it on the news. I've seen it on 2020, but I've never seen it. I said, well, let's go ahead and take a ride. So we start driving around the villages. I start showing him this, and he's just, oh my God, and we just start talking. We're just having a great, it was a day with Bill. There's nothing else I can say. Anybody that's had it, they know what I'm talking about. And we just drove around. I mean, we probably spent 3 or 4 hours driving around the villages. Well, in that conversation, he asked me, well, Chris, are you coming up to Atlanta anymore? And I said, well, I'm thinking and hawing. And I say, well, Bill, I don't really think I'm going to go. I'm tight on money, whatever. And he goes, okay. So next morning, I'm at the workshop, and Bill comes up to me and goes, Chris, here's the deal. Because he was a little bit manipulative at times. And he goes, Chris, here's the deal. I'm going to go ahead and give you a pass to come up there to Atlanta, but you're going to do a workshop for me, and you're going to be recorded. Oh, wow. My ego's all stroked, so I'm great. So what's it going to be on? He goes, well, how to carry the message. I'm like, hey, that's great. I understand this one. He's like, you pick whatever it is you want to do with it. And I'm like, oh, this is awesome, cool. So I'm going to go up here. And when the flyer comes out for the workshop, and it tells you who's doing what, see my name on there, and my sponsor was doing it with me, and his name, and I'm looking, thinking it's going to be how to carry the message, how to pass the message. Well, it was actually, it came to, it was going to be how healthy is your group, how healthy is your recovery. And my sponsor and I are both calling him up going, Bill, what are we supposed to do with this? We have no idea. He's like, dude, you guys got to do whatever you want to do, but you'll do well. And he just always had a way to get you to do stuff with his things. And, and from there, it's funny because Ricky and I were out front today, up at the table up front. He's with us. There's no doubt in my mind he is. Because Ricky and I were sitting there talking to Chris, and I looked down, and Bill's name badge was sitting on the table right in front of us. So, that's not coincidental, so that's.
I'm cornbread and I'm an alcoholic. And old Bill. All right, I'm not going to get upset, but I don't know. I had a few months sober, and Crocodile Dave, and yes, sir. He's no longer in the program with us, but he's a very close friend of mine. And anyway, he said, cornbread, he said, you're going to the Rock. He had let me move in his house. I've been there about in a halfway house for about 30 days. Stab somebody with a fork and stole my belongings. And he let me move in with him. And he said, the guy up there's named Bill, and that's who you're going to find when you get to the Rock. So I found Bill, and I didn't know he was chairman or whatever. I go up to him and I said, David, so I need to come up here and meet you. He says, yes, sir. He says, you got a truck? I said, yes, sir. It was David's truck. But I claimed it. He said, you're going to pass out ashtrays. And I said, I know nothing about it. He said, well, you'll figure it out. This is a good way to learn the problem. And I was very confused. So I had my truck, and he says, I found somebody to help you. And I had these, high pans with a cat litter, and I passed out ashtrays. That's how I began it. And then I met Brian, which was our audio at one time, and that's how I kind of got connected here. I've been connected ever since I got sober. And Larry, if you're here tonight, you don't want to miss that. That's the, if you're in here, grab your seatbelts. Larry and Christian used to do a book study, and it's a book study that changed my life. But all of them kind of connected with Bill. I've been up here at his workshop. Since I've been sober, I might have missed two. Life happens. Couldn't make it one time and decided to tow the car. But Bill was a big part of me getting connected in alcohol. This workshop will get you connected. You gotta get out here, get numbers, get in an uncomfort zone. Stay away from your comfort zone. That's one thing Bill would say, you gotta get out of your comfort zone. So I understand the little comfort zone, so I'm comfortable. Gotta get out of that. Very, very blessed with Bill. I don't know, so maybe 7 months ago, 6 months ago, I can't keep up with time. Bill had called me, and I was at work, and I said, yes, sir. And Bill called me, and he said, you got a minute? I said, well, I'm at work. I said, well, that's great, let's go get something in the break. So I went to the truck and took a break, and he said, would you join the committee? So, of course, I said yes, and Joel, a bunch of these guys, I remember me getting sober out here, and just, nothing but clothes on my back, people. And no car, no job. Definitely was unemployable. And, you know, I've just, so many memories out here were built. And, Joel, a bunch of these guys used to terrify the shit out of me. And, I'm not scared of you anymore, Joel. But, I'm just very blessed.
Better be scared of me.
Anyway,
We were.
Bill really got me connected out here, guys. This place is, you know, it just touches a lot of lives. It just touches me. I get real sensitive when it comes to Alcoholics Anonymous and being hopeless. And you come out and see yourself. Bill taught me a lot. So,
Don't run, Cheryl. I gotta laugh if you fall.
So the ghost up in the way to stumble over the street. That's all right. Get him in the step.
You might have to touch that shoe, man. You walking kind of wobbly.
Yeah, it's worse than it was out here. I'm sorry. You know, that's what we talking about. One day Bill said, I hit you with my stick. You know? I'm thinking about Bill, man. I need to be over there making up the golf numbers. I'll take care of that. I wanted to come and say a few things about my friend, because he was my friend. Grand sponsor and all of that, but I was his sponsor. I was his grandpa's sponsor. When his daughter had them boys, first one, he was up at the house. Took the little boy, my arm, said a prayer for him, and God put an angel over like I do with all the kids that I know. And so he said, what I'm going to do? I said, Bill, look, first thing I'm going to do as your sponsor is tell you you do not buy the pony for him on his first birthday. There's things you're supposed to do. And that's what we call each other being on with Grandpa. Because he loved them boys and I loved him. And he had a special way about doing things. Like Cornbread, I know when I came up there, well, that's a pretty good deal. I bugged him for 2 years. Let me do something. So he started letting me do stuff. Next thing I know, I was on the committee too. His method of being is kind of special. Get a phone call, time to time. Just wanted to talk. You know, I figured if you're that person, you need somebody you can call and talk to, just like a guy on the other side of the pool table or something. You just sit around having a good time. You can't be that person, the chairman, all the time. Sometimes you just need to be grandpa, you know. And I'm that kind of outlet for him. I love it. He the one put me on to my business. Yeah, he's always ready for a good word, a good thought for you. I'm really gonna miss it. I'm really gonna miss it. Special guy. Just want y'all to know that I love him. I believe he loves me. Thank you.
Take that mic to your dinner.
Oh, there are 2 people up there want to talk.
The dinners go first.
All right. I'm Bill. Yeah, I know. I'm Bill talking about Dennis. I was Bill's dentist. And so it was so funny, Bill, when he'd come in, and he would say, if you hurt me, you're going to have to do another 4-step. So I made sure I didn't hurt her. Bill was such a special person. He got me involved early on.
by doing this. I don't know how many here have ever been to Colorado, up in Cashiers, North Carolina. But, my dad got sober the same month as Marlene did, in April of 1982. And Bill came in a little bit later on in July of 1982. And so, Bill and my dad used to always talk about it. We needed to get Bill Jr. into something. I mean, you get him around us. So, Bill Jr. So, I used to go up there, and this was in '89, and I didn't get sober in '92. So I would go up and spend time in Cashiers, North Carolina with Bill and Marlene and my dad. And my dad thought that I would get this program through osmosis. And it didn't catch for about 3 years. And so I got very involved in that little retreat, because once I did get sober, it was a very good part of my life. But I was like 3 months sober, and remember Sherwood, he told me, said, you got to need, if you're really so serious about getting sober, you need to come down to Landon's workshop. So 3 months sober, these guys were in Julius and Jewel and all that. They were doing that thing where they grilled people on the hot seat. God knows I got zero sleep down here for a whole weekend. And I said, you're right, those guys are really serious about recovery. And so that's the one thing that I can say about Bill. Bill wanted to make sure that I got involved in big things like this. I'll never forget up in Colorado, I asked Bill to be my sponsor around '96. My first sponsor, Owen Kay, he was in the big meeting in the sky. Owen used to, he traveled a lot. I was going through a divorce. So I said, Bill, will you be my sponsor? And he said, I need a second sponsor. And he said, well, whether it's first, second, you call me anytime. And so he came around, and here I am, trying to go through a divorce. One of the things I love about Bill was he always knew the people in AA like Dr. Paul. So Dr. Paul, he invited him to come to Colorado. And so he said, Bill, I want you to spend a little time with Paul. And I said, I'll be glad to. Well, my wife was coming with me now. My wife had gone back out. She was a crackhead, and so she decided she was going to take a bunch of my credit card and get cash advances for doing crack. And so I was so mad, filed for divorce and everything else. So I go up and talk to Dr. Paul, and Dr. Paul said, well, what was your part in it? And I was going, God, when Richard was talking today, this morning, I was going, I identify with that. Because it was not about me. It was about her using my credit cards to fund her addiction. So Dr. Paul said, she's an addict. Why in the world would you not, you married her knowing she was an addict. And I said, but it's different. We were both in recovery and all this. She said, she was doing what addicts do. It's not about her, it's about you, how you react to things. You put yourself in that position. And I got really angry about it here. Now, not only did Bill Sanders not agree with it wasn't my fault, but Dr. Paul, he even said it was all about me. Another result that I had to work on. But Bill was a really special person. And, I mean, I had never seen anybody that did more for AA than Bill Sanders. He always had in his trunk all of this literature that he would give out to people that needed things. Always making sure that his sponsees were very involved in the stuff that he was doing. And up to the very end, I talked to him the day before he took his final breath. I could not believe that he was gone. But what a great way to go. I mean, he was a huge Georgia. And, to take your last breath while watching the Bulldogs.
This particular
that particular day, watching them win the national championship. That's a real blessing in itself. I mean, because Bill was really depressed. He called me up and he said he was during Christmas time. He was really struggling being without Halloween. And he said it just pain is so bad. And so I told a few close friends. I said, I just don't know how much longer Bill's going to be doing. He was in that much pain. And so, and he's where he's supposed to be. And I love the man, and his picture being up there is appropriate. Because he was as much a part of this workshop as any one of those guys up there. So that's about all I have. I'm going to miss it.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
Bill Jr.
My name's Randy Parsons. I'm just another alcoholic.
Hey, Randy.
I was like many of us that met Bill when I first came down here. And I thought he was somewhere up on top of the pedestal. And I come to find out he's just like me. And I remember too, where'd Cornbread go? He probably left before I got talking about it. But when Bill asked me to be a part of the committee, well, I can't do it because I'm not special enough. Because I still had, and being sober for a while, I still didn't know about if I had it all together enough to do it. And me and Bill had some discussions about some things, some pretty heated discussions about this workshop. And we didn't always agree, and that was wonderful. And we get heated about it, and we'd talk about it, and then we'd always come back together and hug each other's neck and say, I love you. And I hope to tell you about that. I love you in just a minute. But I'm going to tell you a little quick story about me and Bill together. We had both flown out to California on separate airplanes to speak out there at the Back to Basics at a workshop that was born right off of this one. Saturday afternoon, the guys came to us and said, come on, we want to take y'all somewhere. So we figured we'd go eat somewhere or something, And we went riding and riding and riding and riding and riding, and we rode up the mountain, and we kept riding and riding and riding and riding and riding. We came around this curve, and there it was, Palomar Observatory. And that may not make a hill of beans to none of y'all. I had fallen in love with my 7th grade science teacher. And we studied about space, and I learned about space because I wanted to impress her. 7th grade, I'm going to take up with my teacher. She, I'm going to impress her. And we saw that thing, the two of us looked at each other, and the tears just flowed. Because Bill had had a similar experience about this Mount Palomar and this Palomar Observatory, where at that time was the largest telescope in the world. You could see the farthest that you could ever see in space from there. And we didn't get to go in and sit down and look at the telescope, but we got in close enough to maybe 10 feet away from it. They just didn't have, you had to have special permission to touch it and do all that stuff. I tell you that to let you know that he was just another human being. Yes, he was special to all of us, but he was still just a regular old guy. And as many of y'all have said, you could just go up to him and talk to him. Didn't matter who you were. Now sometimes he could look at you a little funny. You kind of coughed over. You didn't really even say that, did you? And I truly will miss you. But I'll see him again. That's my belief. And a few days before Bill passed away, I got my last text message from him. And I don't know this, but I think that he may have thought something was maybe coming. Because a lot of people got a lot of text messages right shortly before he passed away. And it simply said, I love you. And that was all. And I texted him back and said, I love you. And that was it. But this workshop, guys, I've come to love it, and I've come to know for me, it's not about me down here anymore. I used to come down here and expect to get something. Now I don't have any plans when I come down here. I just wait and see what God unfolds. And He always gives me one or two or three of you guys who may have 1 or 2 or 3 days for me to sit and listen to. And you help me. I am truly, truly amazed. I got to tell you how I got here. And I had, through the grapevine, had heard something about this Atlanta Men's Workshop. But I couldn't find out any damn information about it. It was like I was some secret-ass society, you know. You got to know a certain person or turn your hand a different way or something to get any kind of hookup here. And finally, it was before me and Jimmy got hooked up. He wasn't my sponsor yet. I still had the other Jimmy from sponsor. But I asked Jimmy, I said, you know anything about this Atlanta Men's Workshop? He said, well, yeah. Because he'd been down here once or twice himself. He said, I'm going to bring you an application as soon as I get it. Copy of it. He drove over to Athens from Monroe and brought it to me. And I wrote a bad check to get in here the first time. That's back when you could write a check and it'd take a week. You don't write no bad checks no more. They know right there on the spot. And when I got down here, and probably not the first person, but within the first 10 people, I met Jimmy Smith and Bill Sanders. Whew. That's big kind of stuff. So I'm going to keep coming back as long as I can. I'm getting old and I don't get around as much as I used to, but I'm going to keep coming as long as I can. And thank you, Bill. Just thank you. And that's it for me.
My name is Brian Gilman, and I'm a lot of things. But the main thing, I'm a friend of Bill. Met Bill 21 and a half years ago. almost 22 years ago. I got a phone call working out here at Rock Eagle. Sound got the time stopped. And we knew this was the next biggest group coming up, and I heard, hey, it's going to be a tough group. The guy in charge, his name is Bill Sanders, and he's a stickler. He's a nice guy, but he's a stickler. He knows what he wants. He's hard to please. And I said, oh, goodness. So well, let me go ahead and call him and see what I can do to help him. So I gave him a call about 2 months out from that rock in like August. I said, Mr. Sanders, Brian Gilman, Rock Eagle 4-H Center. I said, I heard a lot about you, looking forward to working with you. What do you need from me? He said, oh, goodness, you're my new guy. And I said, yes, sir, I am. He said, well, you got some big shoes to fill. He said, even though it's never quite been done right, he said, I'm going to set a different expectation on you than I ever had before. I told him, I said, well, Mr. Sanders, I'll do the best I can to help you. I said, I'm not sure how good I'm going to be, but I'm going to give it a whirl. And I asked him what he needed, and he told me, and I took a list of things down and notes, and I got off the phone with him. He said, you think any of it will be a problem? And I said, no, sir, I'll be able to handle it. No worries. I'll see you in October. And I hung that phone up, and I looked at that list, and I realized I'd promised that man way more than I knew how to do. I spent the next 2 months trying to figure it out and get it. And Bill finally got here, and I met him, and he seemed like a tough fellow. Well-dressed, very polite, but serious business and serious about the rock. And we went through the weekend, and by some miracle grace of God, I made it through, and I did pretty good. He came up to me at the end and said, thank you. He said, I look forward to working with you in the future. He said, you did a great job for us, and I can't wait to see what we can do next time. And I said, oh, yes, sir, yes, sir. And I didn't talk to Bill again until that next 6 months, about right before the rock, and I called him and said, hey, Mr. Bill. Actually, I said, Mr. Sanders. I said, it's Brian from Rock Eagle. Just checking to make sure everything's squared away for this coming month at the rock. He said, yeah, we'll do the same thing as last year. Are you ready? I said, well, I think I'm ready. I said, we'll see when we get here. He came and another one went by. But that's the rock I actually got to meet Bill and talk with Bill. And I found out what a special person he was. And over the course of the next 20 years, we became really good friends. Everybody who talked earlier, told stories of Bill and different adventures they had with him and whatnot. Stories about his life and what. And the one thing I hate to admit is I don't know a lot about Bill's life. Because every time I'd ask him, he didn't want to talk about him. He wanted to talk about me and see how I was doing. Because even though I haven't been a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, he always called me the honorary member. And I feel like I need it as much as everybody else. And the one thing to say about Bill, throughout the 20 years plus that I've known him, is that his love for this rock has been undeniable. I mean, he has been that pillar that everyone talked about. And it didn't matter what was going on in his life or how bad it was or what struggles he was going through. He was more interested in helping you and making sure you were doing good. And I love him for it. And I'm going to greatly, greatly miss him. And I hate that I didn't get a chance to go up there and see him like I promised him I would. I texted back and forth with him a couple weeks before he passed. And promised him I was going to come to Atlanta and nothing else. I'd get takeout and bring it over there. We'd eat it at the house. He, as always, said, sounds good, pal. I love you. Look forward to seeing you. Last rock, he gave me that 20-year service award, which I don't deserve. It means more to me than anybody here will ever know. Like all these guys sitting out here, I know a lot of them, but they don't really know me. They might know of me, but I don't think they know the love that I have for this program as well. Even though I'm not a member, it means more to me than I can explain. But it's because of Bill. And I'm so grateful for him introducing me to this. And as long as Wayne, Chris, and whoever will have me back, I continue to come and help any way I can. I just hope like Jewel finished it up with saying, you know, Bill, a lot of people didn't know Bill or never had a chance to meet Bill. And for those who didn't, I'm very sorry because I missed out on a good man. But for us who did, it's up to us to live his legacy on and apply it to all the newcomers and the new people. Because the old people who have been here, like Randy and Cornbread and, you know, Jewel and everyone, they're who is what's holding us together now. And if these new guys will rely on them, the program will continue to build and it'll continue to be successful like it has been in the past. And I look forward to being a part of it. And I couldn't have done it without Bill, and I thank him and love him for it.
Awesome. We probably have pushed our time limit to the limit, but I want to say this thing in closing. I really don't think Bill would have wanted us to do this. No. Right? Oh, well. So we done did it now. And we definitely out of Cain's range. But I think he would have wanted me to do this. Kind of last night, it kind of dawned on me when I was on the stage giving the challenge, and I'm going to go back over that. See, Bill's sponsor died before many of us got to see him. People like me, and Arthur, Phil, a few others of us who came in right after Doc died, right? And we knew some kind of way we had missed something. We didn't know what it was. Kind of like some of you guys who are getting here for the first time. Y'all hearing us talk about this guy, Bill Sanders, and you know you missed something. That's not what it is. Now, looking back over the years, what happened was Doc Crandall's sponsees, a whole lot of them, grabbed this retreat and held on to it for dear life. And the stuff that Doc Crandall had given to them, right? Bill being one of them, those guys turned right around and they gave it to us. Doc Crandall died, I was brand spanking new, man. And Bill was the tape guy. He had formerly been working for ABC. And this guy, Roland Bryce, who was a perennial comic, said that man always been crazy. But those guys loved us to the point where we are now. There are a lot of us, you know, Bill, Arthur, Sean, you've been here that long, Alice Siegel, Mark Siegel, Randy Parsons, the Macon guys, Dr. Bill. A lot of us were blessed with his presence. Okay? A lot of us got a clear example of the kind of love he exudes on people. Right? And if you stick around, you new guys, you're not so new guys. If you stick around and stay here long enough, you will inherit the same thing as we inherited. And that's some priceless stuff. I want y'all to all stand and join with me. We ain't gonna do nothing different than we always do. Except that I always have this personal request that we do not bow our heads when we pray. Just look at who God sent to help us. Alright? Stand where you are. We don't have to circle up. We normally do this with the Serenity Prayer. Let's not change much. Serenity Prayer.
To accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
It works if you do it.
Amen.